Okay, welcome everyone. Tonight we got a special request from David Balto. We're gonna talk about the feelings related to putting on a tallis. And so just before we get into that, we'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff related to tallis, and then we'll talk about the specific feelings that we say. So before you put on a tallis, just some few halachas, and then we'll talk about a tefillah that you should make sure you check the tallis. You should check to make sure that the tzitzit, the strings that are still there, is still kosher. Even if you don't do it, people say that it's still okay because you have a chazaka. Basically, you can rely on the fact that it probably was kosher before, so it's still okay if you didn't check it, but you should check it just to make sure that the strings are still good. And the Rizal writes that this is interesting that he says tzitzit stands for, ready? Tzaddik is a tzadi. First, take the first letter of every single word. Tzaddik yifrad, which means separate. Tzitziyosav, his tzitzit tamid, all the time. That a tzaddik is gonna always check his tzitzit to make sure that they're good, they're kosher. Okay, so take with that with what you want. For the reason why I'm specifically mentioning it here also is because there are those to say a specific tefillah, which we're going to talk about as you're checking your tallis. Some people say to say specific psukim, and we're going to speak about those psukim. Moving on, so wearing the tallis. So I spoke today with my father about this also, but there are those who say you should cover yourself with the tallis. Oh, sorry, before we get into that, when you're putting on the tallis for the very first time in the day, when you're making the bracha, you should cover yourself like all the way up to your lips. They say that that's how the Yishmaelim used to wear their tallis right after you make the bracha, and then you should put the strings over your left shoulder and keep it there for a moment. And you should say, again, we're mentioning this because there are those who say you should say more psukim as you just wait in that moment, right where the tzitzit, the four tzitzit strings are four corners are hanging over here, and the tallis is over your head. There are more psukim that you should say, and then you should wait there for just a few moments, and then you can take it off, and then you wear the tallis. And there are those who say you should, as you're davening, you should actually keep the tallis over your head. And so the reason is that they say that if by putting the tallis over your head, it's gonna come to bring you more fear of God. There are those who don't do it, and there are those who do it. And so I guess you should speak with someone before you make a decision. But there are the people who said that you need to wear your tallis. They held that some hold that you only wear it. Some hold that you wear it during the whole davening. Some said no, you just wear it when we're saying like stuff with kedusha, like Shimon Esrei. So there are those who even have different opinions in that. Okay, so let's talk about some of the kavanas though. That like, what should you have in mind when you're wearing your tallis, or when you're even wearing tzitzit in general? Normally we say though that mitzvahs you don't need to have proper intention. You don't need to have kavana when you're doing the mitzvah. That's okay if you don't have kavana. But by tzitzit, it's a little bit different because the pasuk specifically tells us, the Torah tells us the reason why we put on our tzitzit. We say it every day. We say it in Shema, Laman Tizkiru, that we should remember, right? We talk about tzitzit in Shema, and we say the reason why we're putting on tzitzit is to remember all the mitzvot, that we should have kavanah to remember all the mitzvot and do the mitzvot as we have our tzitzit on. That's what we should have in mind when we put on our tzitzit, and also when we look at our tzitzit. There's also the idea of the tcheles, right? That if you have tzitzit with tcheles, that tcheles reminds you of the sea, right? Which reminds you of the sky, and that reminds you of Hashem, and that's going to also cause you to be more God fearing. Okay, but now let's get into the different tefillahs that you say. So a lot of them. So I was doing some research on this. David sent me the email this morning, right? And so I got a chance to look at some of it, but a lot of it to be honest, I couldn't really understand. There's a lot that had to do with Kabbalah, which is definitely above my pay grade. But what we did understand, I'll share, and then I would love to get feedback if anyone has a different way of understanding it, because it is a little bit hard to fully understand these concepts. So let's start with the first one, Barfi Nafshi. David, which one did you say you really struggle with? The Barfi Nafshi or the one at the end, Maya Kar?
No, I don't think I really struggle. I just want to get a richer understanding of both. I'm really intrigued by the idea that we say these additional prayers to put us in the proper spiritual position, and what's going on there, and then the prayer in the middle, which is
L'Shem Yichud. Which one?
Yeah, and the Koran Seder. I mean, that is really interesting, and it's and by the way, this is the stuff that drives, other than conservative and reform people, nuts. So, and there's but anyway, but yes. So,
okay,
what you're spiritually?
So we'll talk about all of them, and then we'll discuss. So first is Barfi Nafshi, because that's the first one that we say, and this is the one that the Shalach Kodesh says you should, as you're checking your tzitzis, you should make sure to say these psukim. And the reason why people say this, I mean, first let's read it and then we'll talk about it. So if you have a sitter in front of you, that's great. Or I can just read it. It's very short. So the psukim are Barfi Nafshi es Hashem, bless my soul Hashem, Hashem Elokai Gadol Mi'od, Hashem my God, you are very great. Hod v'Hadar Lavashta. Hod is glory, Hadar is majesty, Lavashta means you have worn. Ote or kasama, donning light as a garment. Notesh Shemaim Kayir is stretching out the heavens like a curtain. So that is like, first of all, that's like, seems very mystical. Like I'm not sure exactly what it's saying, but I think the way people understand this, the way the Farshim explain it, is that it's alluding to the Tallis as Kadosh Baruch Hu's clothing. This is God's clothing. Meaning Hod v'Hadar Lavashta means that you wear glory and majesty. Like that's God's clothing. Others explain that when God created the world, he wrapped himself in his own garment, like in his own tallis in a way, and then spread that out to the rest of the world. And the way it reads is like from your deeds in creating the world, we know that you, God, are great in the moment which you wear your hod, which you wear your glory and your majesty that you wore. And then when you wrap on yourself, like the way we wrap the tallis, when you wrap the world's light on yourself like a garment, it's like it stretches through the heavens on the Lamb like a curtain. So that's the passage. And I guess it's almost trying to put us in a position, right? Trying to put us in a mindset where as we put on our tallis, we feel God is almost at the same time, he also puts on his own tallis, and we're just kind of emulating that on this world down below. That's my understanding of these two psukim. Anyone else have a?
Yeah, we're imitating God.
Imitating God, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first one. Good. Hilla, any comments? Good.
Just add one little. We're starting off with our neshama, bar afshi. My soul. I mean, we're immediately going to our soul. Our soul, bless God. So it's like you're waking up. You're there. You're not there. Your soul is sort of lingering. You want to reconnect with your soul, and and connect with Hashem.
It's definitely a good point because often, meaning we put on our Tallis, and this is very early in the morning, and we need that awakening. Very, very good point. Okay, so now let's go to the next one. So some people like to say L'Shem Yichud, this next prayer over here before they perform any mitzvah. Some people say it before they perform any mitzvah. I think it's a little difficult to do that, but you can definitely find it in your siddur, different places. People say it also before they put on. They say a very similar thing before they put on their tefillin, for example. Also before they count fears to Omer, people will say. Each one is its own thing. Each one has its own little, to make sure it flows and it's related to the exact mitzvah that you're about to perform. But people have this passage, as they say, to get them again in the right mindset before they perform various mitzvahs. So the tefillah reads, L'Shem Yichud, for the sake of the unification, Kedusha Brichu Shechinate of the Holy One, blessed He and His presence, B'dichulu U'Richumo, in fear and love, L'Yachad Shem Yod Kei B'Vav Kei B'Yichud Shalem, unify the name Yod Kei Vav Kei in unity that's complete, B'Shem Kol Yisrael, in the name of all Yisrael. And this I saw specifically on this, in the name of all Yisrael. What we're mentioning here is that, meaning to allude to those in Yisrael who, even though we're not always able to perform this mitzvah on such a high level with complete kavana, we're saying, we should be included with the people, B'Shem Kol Yisrael, meaning included with all Yisrael, so even the people who are able to perform it on a high level. Okay, and then it continues. Hareini, I'm ready. Misatef gufe b'tzitzis, to wrap my body in tzitzis. Kain tisatef mishmasi reish memches ivar yushin samechei yidai b'or tzitzis haolam taryav. So I'm wrapping myself in tzitzis, right? So my neshama, my soul should be, and my 248 organs, my 365 sinews, they should also be wrapped in the illumination of tzitzis, which has the numerical value of 613. And just as I'm wrapping myself in a tallis in this world, so too may I merit the garment of the rabbis and the beautiful tallis in the world to come, in the Garden of Eden, value. They mitzvah tzitzis, through performing mitzvah tzitzis, tinasel nafshi rufi v'nishmati utviloti minach. May my life force and my spirit, my nafshi and ruchi, nishmati, my soul, tefillati, my prayers, they should be saved from external forces. The tallis, and this tallis, yifros kinasav aleim v'yatileim, should spread its wings over them, over these, right, the external forces, the yatileim, it should rescue, right, my neshama, it should rescue my nafshi, my ruchi, my nishmati. Kinesher, this is very interesting. Kinesher, like an eagle, yair, which arouses its nest, all goes alav yirachis, hovering over its little eaglets, right? Mitzvah tzitzis with Kadosh Baruch Hu, and this mitzvah of tzitzis should be considered. It should be poured in before Kadosh Baruch Hu, as if I fulfilled it in all its aspects and details and its intentions, as well as the 613 commandments that are dependent upon it, a main stella. Okay, so just a few comments before I hear from you is that Chalukah Dirabanan, what is that referring to? Right, we mentioned the garment of the rabbis. What does that mean? So the Zohar Kadosh explains that all the mitzvahs that we do in this world turns into a garment for the neshama, and that in that way the soul, right, the neshama, the soul will wrap itself in the light of mitzvahs. It's a little bit hard to understand, but that's what he says it's alluding to. There's definitely a lot of mystical ideas that go on in this passage that we say. And then also, this I found very interesting, that the mitzvah of tzitzis is compared to an eagle. So how do we know that? So it's you can see it from the psukim, because it says right? We say al kanfei bigdeihem on the corners of your garments, and then we say al kanfei nisharim, which means on the wings of eagles. So it's the same type of lashon, and that's the hint to the idea that tzitzis is similar to an eagle. Also, he'll like this: the gematria of tzitzis and the gematria of nisharim are both equal to 600. They have the same gematria. So that's the connection. The question is why? What does an eagle have to do with tzitzis? And to that, I don't know. Not sure.
The eagle creates a wonderful sense of protection. So that, as we are striving into the day, or as we're striving into this path of prayer, we have that sense of protection around us.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And also it's hovering over its young. So the nice thing about this paragraph, which is just simply remarkable, is it reminds us of our vulnerability, as we're starting off. It reminds us of, our weaknesses. We're like fragile young birds. Let me just point out two things that I thought were important. So we said Elohai Nishama 4 pages earlier or something like that. And I'm reminded about, even though we're awake and alive, we're reminded ultimately of our life in the world to come. And here we have, may I be worthy of a fine garment in the world to come in the Garden of Eden. And so, and then I just love the idea of may I be delivered from external impediments. So we know as we go into the day, there are going to be all these obstacles that we deal with, but for this moment, let us be removed from that. Let's be protected by that. Embrace us in your heavenly Tallis, so that our neshama can awaken and expand and feel connection with Olam Haba.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Definitely have good stuff to say about these feelings. Also, I will say that as you were speaking, it definitely, for me, I only started really wearing a tallis a few months ago when I got married. That's when I started wearing a tallis every single day. And there's definitely something to be said about the feeling that you get when you're wearing a tallis and you're under the tallis. And the feeling of you and Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's just you and him, right? And you feel that protection almost, right? As if you're being almost like, you're being protected by the wings of something greater than you. And so,
right,
like David was saying, that I'm sure that's just a surface level of what this passage means. I'm sure there's a lot deeper things that are said and can be said about it, but even on a surface level, that's maybe a little bit of what's going on in this tefillah. And then the last tefillah that we say, the last psukim. So, one more thing is that some people say that, so all that you say before you put on your tallis. Some people add to say, so it doesn't have this in my article siddur. Maybe David, it has it in your siddur, but does your siddur have Vihi Noam to say Vihi Noam?
No.
Okay, so I saw some siddurs have it, some siddurs don't say it. So there are those who say that you should say the passage of Vihi Noam. Right? We say it that Motzi Shabbos before we get to Havdalah. We say that's how we start the conclusion of Maariv. We say Vihi Noam. Some say it's also Vihi Noam. May the pleasantness Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu, the Lord of God be upon us. And then we repeat this phrase twice. The work of our hands should establish for us. The work of our hands established for us. So Rashi explains that this pasuk was actually said by Moshe Rabbeinu to Bnei Yisrael after they finished their work in the Mishkan. And he says the repetition 2 times. So the first one alludes to the work in the Mishkan, so that the Shekhinah should basically remain in there when they did their work. And then Moshe repeated again the same idea, right? Maseh Yadeinu Kana Aleinu, to bless other work that they do with their hands. And so the reason why some people like to say it here is that before we perform a mitzvah, right, with our hands, right, mitzvah that we're doing, we're asking Kadosh Baruch Hu that even though we did our mitzvah, this mitzvah with just our hands and without proper kavanah, nevertheless, Kadosh Baruch Hu should treat it as if we did it in its entirety, as if it was the same work that Bnei Israel did with the Mishkan. So some people like to say it there, but even if you don't say it here, you can have a kavanah when you're saying it Motzei Shabbos, to that idea that Moshe Rabbeinu said it to Bnei Israel. Okay, so then what we do next is we unfold the tallis, right? Hold it ready around yourself, and then you say the bracha. You wrap the tallis around yourself, and then you wait there for a few moments, and you say the following psukim. So the psukim are: Ma yakar chasdacha, how precious is your kindness, God. Uvnei adam b'tzak nefecha yasiyun. Mankind in the shelter of your wings takes refuge. Right, again, this idea, right, wings, eagle, right. Yirviyu mideshem b'techa, they will be sated from the abundance of your house. V'nachal the nefesh hashkem, and from the stream of your house, of your delight, you give them to drink. Ki amcha mikorchaim, for with you, God is the source of life. The orcha nira, or by your light may we see light. Extend your kindness to those who know you. And your charity should go to those to the upright of heart. Those are psukim we say there. And the Shlach Harush has said that these 4 psukim, which we just read over and translated, although again a little bit mystical, so he says very appropriately that these 4 psukim you should for sure say as you finish wrapping your tallis. And he says, I can't elaborate more, but the secret behind them is very, very great. There's a great sod. It's sod rav here. There's a great secret to these psukim. So you should say it, but can't really tell you why. David, what do you think?
No, it's wonderful to spend this time focusing on it. Hey, by the way, one thing I wanted to mention, a while ago, you said, you take the tallis and you wrap it over your left shoulder and, sort of cover your face. And that's a time for a special invocation of prayers. And for Sephardim, that is a special time to make a request for the sick. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel by putting on the tallis that you're fulfilling all 613 commandments?
Not quite. Not really, if I'm being honest, but there's definitely the idea that it should remind you of it. But I can't say personally that I do feel that.
But isn't that sort of what we said in the earlier paragraph towards the end?
Yeah, no, that for sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense that that's what we said, because the point, right? The point of the mitzvah of tzitzis is to remind us of all 613 mitzvot, and to not only remind us about them, but to also so that we should do them, and so that you should feel like that when you're doing the mitzvah of tzitzis, you're reminded about all the mitzvot. But it is definitely hard to get to that level. But I'm saying that it definitely makes sense why it's in the tefillah, because that is specifically the point of the mitzvah of tzitzis. And even if you're not wearing a tallis, right? Even if you're just wearing a Bagid Katan, which is a tzitzis, that too, right? When you put that on, as you have it on, it should remind you of all 613 mitzvahs.
There's another aspect, and that is that it goes back to what you were saying about the Nesher having the same gematria as the tzitzis, that the Gemara says that if you hold on to the tzitzis, it will protect you from committing a sin. So this way, the tzitzis is like the eagle, which is, or the Nesher, whatever the Nesher is, protecting us from sin. And so that way the tzitzis are able to help us not violate and keep all of the mitzvos, because it provides actual shmira against sin.
And that's a Gemara in where the tzitzis hits the guy in the string, in the face.
Right, and then it's brought down in the poskim, and if you're worried you're going to sin, you hold on to your tzitzis.
Okay, go
So in the English translation of the paragraph, it says, though the commandment of the tzitzit be made my life's breath. What is the word for life's breath?
Where are you?
It's in the middle paragraph, Harini meet
Yeah.
And then the English translation is through the commandment of the tzitzit made my life's breath. And I was wondering, what's the word for life's breath? Now, is it just nafshi? Or no, rupi?
Life. I can't write what you saying. Life sprout.
Yeah, the translation is life sprout. I guess it's how they translate.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about. I assume it means nishmati, my soul. But I'm not sure how exactly their translation is.
Utfilati minha hitzonim. Yeah.
Right. Chisonim is external forces. Hut means outside. So that's the thing which should protect us from the stuff that come from externally and want to, impact our life negatively.
So when did we start wearing Tallisim?
Well, I'm not sure exactly, but there's the famous medrash that Moshe was giving over the halachas of tzitzis and tcheles, and Korach came to him and he said, "Okay, what if I have a tallis that's all tcheles? Do I still need to put tcheles on it?" So it seems like they were wearing tzitzis even in the times of the midbar.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
Okay, Shkoya. Any other questions or comments? Comments are also good.
Thank you so much. This so reminds us that putting on Tallis is not perfunctory. It's not mundane, that we want to stop for a moment, be mindful, focus on embracing the 613 commandments, connecting with Hashem, and remembering our ultimate goal is to be able to do this in the world to come.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Beautiful. Shkoyach, everyone. Everyone have a good